Alrighty, welcome back everybody. This is Nancy, Summer Weekday Batch, and here's the script that I did on the last video. I wanted to review in my mind how to do the message box because it's it's so simple and basic. I was like, what am I missing on this? So, and you hear the rustling because I'm holding a piece of paper. This is the paper that I printed out. So on the first part of our homework, it said to create a script using descriptive program with variables, which is what we did here. And then there have to be at least 10 variables throughout the script, and obviously I have fewer than that, but that's because I didn't do everything that I could have with that website because I don't want these videos to be 10 hours long. Option explicit must be used. There it is. Present each variable's value in a message box at some point in the script. And I mean, that's very, very simple to do. So let's just stick it down here at the bottom. So what we need to do then is do a little copying and pasting, do a little deleting, and then we're going to be fine. There we go. So, whoops. Edit, undo. You'll see what I'm doing in a second. When you can avoid having to retype everything out and save yourself some time, there is nothing wrong with that. So basically, we're going to be using all of our variables in a pop-up message box, and then we'll have to click OK. So that's what we're using. Why not just copy and paste it, right? And we do not have to write equals, or we do not have to have do we have to? I don't think we have to have quotation marks, but we're going to find out, because every time I look away from the video where I was going over what Jay said, I forget, but I don't think we do. Okay, remember he said you just have to put the message box somewhere in the script. He didn't care. I actually was a terrible person. I put it in between every line of code, but it didn't affect how the code ran, so, you know, whoop-de-doo. So here I just stuck it at the end, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when I run this, it's going to give a message box that pops up, and it should have the number 5 in it, not the word number debts. And then it should get, I will click OK. Then another message box will say 1000, and I will click OK. And the next one will be school loan, and I'll click OK on through. Obviously, if you have at least 10 variables, you are going to have at least 10 message boxes. So let us go ahead and run this and see how it does. And there it is. There's the 5. There's the 5. There's the number 1000. There's the number 1000. There's school loan. There's school loan. There's 10,000, there's 10,000. There's 3.25, there's 3.25. So, as you can see, it was very simple, very straightforward. It just gives you a box. And then you can also put titles on the box and change the type of the box, which I'm sure we'll learn as we go farther along. But for the purposes of this homework, that's all you had to do. Then the last thing you had to do on this half of the homework was to present each variable using the print statement along with the description of the variable and the concatenation, which is the ampersand. So basically I just went back down here once again, paste, whoops, do. Alright, so now I have the same information I have here. I'm going to save this real quick, and I'm going to go see if I can find my homework here to see what I did, because I forgot. Okay, that's the input box and the print. Alright, so when we do the print, and I'm glad I looked, we have to put the word print, and then we put the name of our variable, then we do concatenate, and then everything else has to be inside quotation marks. Good that I looked at that. Sorry, kill that. Open up our thing that we're working on here. Okay, here we go. So all I have to do is add the word print to the front of this. Alright, now if I were to run this, I would get down here under results, or output rather. It would say print and then 5, print 1000, print school loan, print whatever. But it wouldn't have anything after that. Jay said, here I want you to do concatenation. So that means you're going to leave a space, you can use the and sign, then you can do quotation marks. And because you don't want everything shoved together with no spaces, just make a couple of spaces, and then you type your sentence. This is the number of debts the user has. I'll make it a nice complete sentence. Money to pay, and this is the amount money the user has per month to service the debt. Loan name, and this is the name of the first debt. So this is what he wanted us to do, which was to print out the variables and then have an explanation using concatenation of what each variable was. And that is this is the entirety of the first half of the homework. Obviously accounting for the fact that I did not run, I didn't create 20 lines of script for it. But it's very simple to do. If you can do this, you can do the rest of it. And then once again, as you see, I ran it when it was a straight script to make sure it worked. I declared my variables and entered my variables and then ran it to make sure it works. I added my message box and then I ran it to make sure it works. Now I'm going to add the printing and I'm going to run it to make sure it works. As you build, check each stage of your build to make sure everything works. So I'm going to go ahead and clear out my cache. Make sure there's nothing obviously wrong. Print. I cut and paste these so they should all be spelled correctly. Print, print, print. Done, done, done. All right, let's go ahead and run this. Now I'm to my message box. Number of debts is 5. Money to pay is 1,000. Name of the loan, number 1 is school loan. Amount owed on the first loan is 1,000. Finance rate for the first one is that. And we're done. Now all we have to do is go check our output, drag this up, and as you see, 5. Remember, I have to get the variable, not the name of the variable. If it had said number of debts, then this would have been incorrect. So it printed a log, which you can save and you can do whatever you need to do with it. This is the number of debts the user has. And because I did my quotation mark and then I did a couple of spaces with the space bar, they're not shoved up together. 1,000, this is the amount of money the user has per month to service the debt. School loan, this is the name of the first debt, etc., etc. So everything here looks good. And if I had, if I had everything that I needed to have as far as the number of lines, that would be it for the first homework and I could turn that in. 100% done, right? So you would file, export test, It would ask you to want to save, yes, and typically when I'm saving it, I save it to the desktop because that makes it very easy for me to find so I can attach it to my homework. For the homework, you will need to attach a zip file for the first half, a zip file for the second half, and also you have to answer F, explain why option explicit is always a good idea for each automation script. You can do that as a word or text or however, as long as it gets turned in. So this is it on the first half of the homework. You're done. The second half of the homework, you have to choose a completely different website, but I'm going to show you the only difference on this for this second half of the homework, just so I don't have to create a different website. So the difference on it, besides choosing a different website, you also have to create an automation script containing at least 20 lines with variables. At least 10 variables must be used throughout the script. Then the value of each variable must be assigned during runtime using InputBox, which is a little different. And then option explicit must be used, present each variables using the print exactly the same. Okay? So the only thing different between the first half of the homework and the second half of the homework, aside from the fact that you have to use two different websites, is instead of using MessageBox, we will be using InputBox. Once again, I'm going to open up my homework to remind myself of what I did. Yes, we're going to save that. All right. So physically, as you can see on the page here, the only thing that I changed was, what did I do? Oh, I had to do the input box, and then I had to name the input box. So I took my regular variables and then I typed in the word input box, and then I wrote an explanation so that would show up in the little input box whenever I typed it up. Make sure I didn't do anything else weird here. Doodly doodly do. Numbers that equals input box. Okay, got it. Never hurts to refer back to your work to make sure you did it right. All right, so we're going to use this here, and we are going to do to stop. Hello again, it's me again. I literally had to stop recording because I had a brain fart and couldn't remember why I was doing what I was doing. And I was looking at it going, oh my god, I took out all my values for my variables. And that's because we're going to be inputting those variables. See, here's what I'm showing you now. On the homework that I did, before we had the word input box, it just said num det equals, and then I put 5 because that's the number of debt items I had. And on the service debt, it said service debt equals, and then in quotation marks, $1,000, right? That's not on here anymore because we are going to have to input that to get it run here in the test. And I remember when I set up my homework, I said, man, I am totally going to forget what all those numbers are, so I better copy them. And I copied them and I pasted them over here in Notepad so that when those boxes popped up for me, I would remember what information I was going to put in, because as you see, it's on my homework. I've got like 20 variables, so I got a lot of stuff. And then I also commented that out in the test itself, so whoever is grading the test can easily pull this information to put into the input boxes, right? So whoever's grading the test, they're going to get all these input boxes, and then it's going to be super easy for them to type it in. All right, now I think I remember what I'm doing. So let's open a test. Let's open the one that I've been using for the video. Okay. So I scared myself because I'm going to have to take out this information here. because it's not going to be here on the test. It's going to be in my brain, and I'm going to have to input it in order to get the test. So, input box, enter the number of debt items. That way when the box pops up, I remember to do that. Input box, enter the amount of money to pay. Loan name. Okay, so for the second test, we don't need the message box. I'm going to get those out of here. We will need the print. And the only thing new is we're doing is the input box. Now, also, as you see, we don't have any of our values written down on this script. If I were to try and take this out now, all this stuff here where it says input box and up, it wouldn't work because I don't have any values for these numbered debts, right? This is what made me have to stop and think a minute ago. So, but when we run the test, it'll give me a pop-up and it'll say enter the number of debt items, 5, and then it'll load that and make sure that that's what gets put on the website, and it will also tell the print what that number is supposed to be. Everything will go, God willing, to the right place. So showing is better than talking. I'm going to clear this out of habit. You know what? It may work perfectly without me clearing the cache, but I'm into it now. I can't stop. Alrighty. So we have, the only thing I took out was the message box from the previous test. We're pretending now we're on the second half of the test where instead of doing message box, we had to do input box, okay? And that requires us to enter the information that the values that we had declared for our variables. So you're not going to physically find them on the page until we run the test. So let us go. Run. And enter, I have a syntax error. Number of debts, enter the number of debt items input box. What did I do wrong? Okay, I'm going to save this. Obviously I did something incorrect. I'm going to go back and take a look at my own test. Num debt input box. Parentheses. Aha, very good, very good, very good. They have to be inside parentheses. See? You have to, if you haven't done something 100 times, it is very easy to forget. So you don't be ashamed if you have to stop and go back. Don't be ashamed if you have to ask somebody for help. You know, you record the lectures so you can go back and watch the lectures again and again, and you practice, practice, practice. One reason Jay told us to do 20 lines instead of 5 lines is it will impress itself on your brain if you do more lines. So I have corrected my syntax, which I should have checked my syntax before, right? So let's go ahead and do that now. Design, check syntax, and now my syntax is valid, which I had checked that before. Would have been easier on me. Okay, I have corrected my mistake. Let's see if we can run that again. Enter the number of debt items. I have 5. Enter the amount of money to pay, $1,000. Enter the name of the first loan, school loan. Enter the amount owed, $10,000. Enter the finance rate. And now hands off, and it will fill in all that information. Isn't that so cool? I love automation testing. I think it's really awesome. There we go. Looks like it ran fine. And the only thing we have to check to see if our print went, and it actually printed correctly. It printed the numbers that I input into the input box, and to me, I just think this is like magic. It's really awesome. Because last time, remember, we had it in that message box, so those numbers were on the page. You don't see the number 5 on this page anywhere. You don't see the number 1000 on this page anywhere. We put it into the input box, and the input box made sure it got where it needed to go, because number debts is right here, and number debts is right here, and number debts is right here. It made sure it all got to the correct place. And that's it, gang. That is the second half of your homework. The hardest thing you'll have to do, and you're probably finding this now if you've been looking around, is to find a good website to use. Just keep on poking around. You have to use 2 separate ones. You can only use this for either the first one or the second one. It doesn't really matter. And trying to think of another good one. People were using bankrate.com, but it's very funky. It's not filling in the numbers correctly. Just try and find something that works for you, and you don't have to share with everybody, because sometimes people don't like it when you use their same website they use, and I'm that same way too. You've heard me before say, please don't use this, but it's such a challenge finding a good website. I don't mind at all if you use this Snowball. What's the cause website? Party on. And that's it. That's the homework now. It's just a matter of doing it. It can be very tedious. Just a hint, don't put 10 different selections from your object spite in between these parentheses. Minimum 2. If you can't find 2 really good things, 3 should be fine for you, unless you have a bunch of identical boxes on the page of the particular website you're going to use. Don't put 5, 6, 7, or 8, 9 in here. Shouldn't need them. 3 should be enough. Make sure that they are all different. If the name is exactly the same as the type, or let's say the HTML ID is exactly the same as the name, don't use both of them. I did that by mistake on my first descriptive programming homework and didn't realize it, so now I'm a little wiser. I help you be a little wiser. Make sure that you're using the correct suffix here. If it is a dot set, use set. If it is a dot select, use select. Select will be for instance, a web list. Dot set will be if you're inputting information, you're typing stuff in. Make sure, in order to keep stuff from being shoved together, when you do your quotation marks after your concatenation, you do a couple of spaces here. And let me see if there's anything else. Make sure you use parentheses around your quotation marks for your input box. That's very important, as you see. Make sure you're using option explicit. If you have any special notes for your script or for the person who will be using your script, make a comment at the top or in the middle, anywhere. You do not have to do comments after every line. Jay was doing that as a way of instructing us. You can if you want, if it's helpful to you, but it is not necessary. Do check your syntax. Make sure that there's no obvious mistakes in your syntax. Remember, declaring variables will not check your syntax for you. What else? Make sure you don't have any extra commas in there. Like if you're ending a line and you have an extra comma, take it out. Also, if you end up having a bunch of variables and it's coming out way out here and you don't want it to, you can do 2 lines. You can put this here, get rid of this comma, and you can do dim on the second line. Just make sure you don't have an extra comma here, an extra comma here. That way, you won't have stuff running off way to the end of the page here. What else? Check your spelling. Make sure you save as you go so you don't lose anything, because if something messes up and it crashes at this point, then you've saved it. You can always find it again. When you're looking to make sure you got your output down here, you'll go to View, Output, and then you'll probably have to click and drag it up to bring it so you can see it. Alrighty? Okay, I think that's it. I think I tried to cover all of the hazardous ground. If you have a website that you are willing to share with other people to help them do their homework, then that's extremely generous of you, and you can send it to me and I will share it with everybody on the WhatsApp and on the email list. If not, we don't take it personally. Sometimes you just don't want anybody else using your website, and I absolutely understand that. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or message me through WhatsApp. I'll be home all weekend. And I will see you kind and gentle folks on Tuesday. Have a lovely rest of the weekend. Bye-bye.